What's going on, everyone? So many of you, if not all of you, are aware that the Lakers traded for Rui Hachimura, and he had his debut, which went great, and I'm really excited for his future. I think he's going to be a nice little staple, good age, great development, right? He's a guy that's only going to improve and get better, and he's a piece for the long haul. The Lakers clearly are probably going to make other trades just because now they have to pay Rui, they have to pay Austin Reeves, and so at that point, you're pretty much tied with your cap space. So it would make sense to try to make deals to try to upgrade your roster. The Lakers are in the market for a big man. We've gotten many reported trades from Jakob Poeltl to Nerlens Noel and Miles Turner. All of these pieces that the Lakers could potentially get. And even the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner deal, right? You could get a shooter and a center, right? You have the Pistons deal, a shooter and Boyan, a center, right? And those are all kind of what we're seeing as far as Laker deals. The Lakers are trying to get a center and a shooter. But when it comes to the Pacers deal, that is a pretty steep price. That would probably cost both the Lakers' first round picks, which the Lakers don't really seem like they want to do, right? Unless it's a deal that they feel makes them a bona fide contender. But they have shown the willingness to give up a first. I mean, they offered a first for the Bojan Bogdanovic trade. So one trade that could actually make sense for both teams, and a team that just has a plethora of centers and guys that they don't really need, that they could unload and the Lakers could get a deal done, is the Orlando Magic. Now, the Lakers, they could get a shooter and a center, right? You could get a Terrence Ross and a Mo Bamba that would just be, I think, really great compliments. And Mo Bamba kind of fits what the Lakers are looking for, right? A young, playable piece that could actually make an impact now, but also be a piece going forward for the future. With Mo Bamba, I mean, you're talking a 24-year-old center who actually is kind of the odd man out in Orlando because they just have so many sizable centers and power forwards that Mo Bamba, he's a guy that's just kind of, we've seen his production kind of drop, and he's on the trade block, right? He's a guy that right now, he's averaging 7 points per game, but he's only playing about 17 minutes per game. He's a guy that stretches the floor. He's 40% from three this season and was even 38% last season in a more regular sample size, right? He played 71 games and he started 69 of them, and he was playing about 25 minutes a game last year and gave 10 points per game along with 8 rebounds per game. So this is a guy that could really be a huge kind of impact player, but he's young enough for the future, right? He's a piece that could really kind of step in, play alongside Anthony Davis. He also has the ability, you could play he could be like the sort of outside man on offense and then the inside man on defense, allowing AD to play the four more. Kind of gives you the same idea and concept of Miles Turner, but he's a lot younger, and he's a piece that you could have Mo Bamba and then Rui Hachimura for the next several seasons. And like Mo Bamba, his per 36 is 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. So in comparison to Miles Turner's per 36 is just under 21 points, just under 10 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks. So they are nearly identical. Miles Turner shoots 39.1% from three, and you have Mo Bamba who shoots 38.4% from three. So, I mean, you're talking identical numbers, like to the T almost in every category, but he's also younger in a piece that you could have him for the next 10 years and he's still in his prime. That's something that is great, right? And then to go get a guy like a Terrence Ross, it gives you a lot of like the same things that you want from Buddy Hield. Now, he isn't just the elite dead-eye shooter that Buddy Hield is, although he's no slouch. Terrence Ross is also better defensively, right? He's a guy that can really come in and I mean, he's not like an elite defender, but he is a guy that he's just a better defender than Buddy Hield is. And it's still a guy that shoots 38% from three this season. So he's still shooting really good from three. He's a guy that could come in and give you, 10 to 12 points per game. I mean, he has a career average of 11 points per game. gives you a true starting shooting guard that could really help and benefit the Lakers. The Lakers really need shooting, and this would just be a much cheaper deal than what you could do with Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. That's the key, is finding a deal that, like, okay, well, we want a shooter and we want a sizable center, right? Well, we also want pieces for the long haul. The Orlando Magic could solve everything. And the Orlando Magic are looking for guard play. So the Lakers you could do the deal with, like, say, Patrick Beverley and Lonnie Walker. Maybe that's something that Orlando would like. And maybe Orlando would actually like to keep Patrick Beverley, because Patrick Beverley's a locker room guy. He's a dog. He's a vet. Like, they might actually value him as, like, okay, like, we don't just want to buy him out. We want Patrick Beverley as, like, a guy to be in the locker room, to be, like, a solid contributor, to be a guy that kind of adds some toughness to this young team. Lonnie Walker is a young piece, a young asset that they could keep around for the long haul if they want to, and kind of structure him and integrate him as part of the team. Or you could even go the bigger deal, right? Like, if you're the Orlando Magic, and Orlando, based on reports, want to try to get back into the playoffs and be a playoff team. Like, they feel like they're good enough and have enough young talent for the future. Maybe you do the Russ deal, right? Like, would Orlando take Russell Westbrook, a first round pick, and maybe like a second or a couple seconds, right? And so you unprotect it, and then you add Gary Harris to the deal? If you're the Lakers, it would be hard not to consider that, right? You get a young 24-year-old 3-and-D style center that you could have for the next 10 years. On top of that, you get Terrence Ross, who shoots 38% from three, and it would be a solid contributor, 6'6" size. Could play the shooting guard, could play the small forward position. And you could even add Gary Harris, who, again, is another solid shooting guard that you could have off the bench, just provides you more shooting. He's got size at 6'4", right? So he's not like a 6'2", shooting guard, like, or a guy that you just have undersized. He's still 28 years old, right? He's a guy that this season alone, he's coming in he's shooting an insane amount this season. He's shooting 47.3% from three, which is insane. He's shooting almost 50% from three, but he's, for the most part of career, 38% three-point shooter. So, for example, last season he played 61 games. And in those 61 games, he shot 38.4%, so just under 39%, right? And he averaged, again, a guy that can give you 10 to 12 points a game. So if you could get Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, Mo Bamba for Russell Westbrook and a first-round pick, and maybe you add in a second or 2 seconds or something like that, I think you do it, right? Terrence Ross is only 31. So he's a guy that you could have for the next several seasons. Gary Harris, again, he's 28. So he's a guy you could have at least for the next 4 or 5 seasons. And then Mo Bamba is now your center for the future that you can grow, develop. And, I mean, you could have a front court post LeBron James of Mo Bamba, Rui Hachimura, and Anthony Davis still. I mean, you're still in a very good position. You'd still have Gary Harris. You could still have Terrence Ross, right? You'd still have Austin Reeves. Max Christie could evolve and turn into something, right? Like, now you start having these pieces that could really kind of be around for the long haul and really kind of add to this Lakers core, right? And I've seen a lot of people that are like, well, the Lakers are already like 8-9 players deep, stuff like that. Yes, to an extent, but we need starting level talent. The problem is we have a lot of like really good guys, but they're not really starting level guys, right? Like, and we don't have shooting. We need some shooting. This gives you shooting, but also these are moves for future play. You're probably losing half of your team, if not like 90% of your team next season, if you're the Lakers. You need to start making moves that give you long-term players, guys that can be around longer than just this season. Because that's the problem the Lakers are having, is they keep having this roster turnaround, this roster rehaul, and then they got to rebuild chemistry and they got to do all that stuff. So, and I understand a lot of people look at it as like, well, if you add 3 or 4 pieces, well, now you got to start all over with chemistry and stuff. Yes, to an extent. But look, these guys are role guys that are going to come in and just play their role. We're not asking them to do something else. We're asking them to come in and just provide the 3-and-D. And Terrence Ross and Gary Harris are both guys that can go and create and score in and of themselves. We need that badly. We need guys that you can just give the ball to and they can just go get a bucket, operate in the mid-range, score on all three levels, right? Like, that's what the Lakers really need, are guys like this. And it's going to be easier to integrate role guys than it will be other guys. But let's say it doesn't work out, right? Well, at least you have the rest of the season. You have an entire offseason, an entire training camp, and an entire preseason to build chemistry to get ready for next season to try to go win a championship or two. Like, that's what the Lakers need to do. And, you could either do this one of two ways. Like I said, you could do the Russell Westbrook trade where you basically get all three of these guys, or you could do it to where you just get like two of them. Like, maybe you get Gary Harris and Mo Bamba. Maybe you get Terrence Ross and Mo Bamba. However you'd like to do it. But the Lakers clearly want a big man and like some type of shooting guard, small forward type guy. But again, if you look at the Lakers roster, pretty much everyone's gone, right? I mean, you'll have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura, and Austin Reeves that are all guys that you're trying to re-sign. You're probably losing Lonnie Walker after this season. Dennis Schroeder may or may not stay, depending on how much you give him, but you're not going to have much to give him. Thomas Bryant, I think, has played himself into too large of a contract. I don't think we're going to be able to keep him. So you lose him. You have Max Christie. That'll be good. But maybe Troy Brown Jr., maybe he's a guy that could get some, but he's been pretty consistent and solid and only 23 years old. So there's a team that might throw him, say $5 or $6 million, as opposed to us who are just going to get him on a vet minimum. Like, you're going to lose half of your team after this season. You're better off trying to go get some guys for the long haul, and especially if you can get a piece like Mo Bamba, right? Like, again, he's a guy that you're going to have, that you can have for the next 10 years. He can be your center for now and the future. And that, to me, is just, I think that's huge. I think that's something that you got to do, in my opinion. I think that this is a really solid deal. If it's something that they can work out and be on the table, all of these guys are available at the right price. Orlando, of course, they want, they're asking just like everyone else right now for an insane amount. Like, they want a first for Terrence Ross. They're not going to get a first for Terrence Ross. They've been trying to get a first for Terrence Ross for the last 3 seasons. They're not going to be able to get a first for Terrence Ross. So he's probably worth a second. Gary Harris, same thing, just based on what the market is right now. And then Mo Bamba, I think, is worth a first round pick. I think there is teams that would take a flyer on him and give up a first round pick for him. Would the Lakers be that team? Like, if you could give an unprotected first for all three of these guys. And also, you got to think that, would Orlando play Russell Westbrook? They actually might. Like, believe it or not, they actually might. And that team is probably better suited for Russell Westbrook. So that's a team that might actually look at Russell Westbrook as a player of value. Obviously not at $47 million, but they have the money and he's an expiring contract. And if it works, you could keep him. If it doesn't work, you just let him go and it's no big deal, right? At least you got some assets for these guys. And Russ could be a guy because they're in the market for a point guard based on some of the things that we've heard, based on some of the moves that they made. Or maybe you could even work out a 3-team deal, right? There's talks that Orlando wants Fred VanVleet, right? Could the Lakers maybe get in on a 3-team deal and get Mo Bamba and get like a Gary Trent and work something out in that department? I don't know, but that may be a video for another day. In the meantime, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below. What do you think about an Orlando Magic trade? Would you love a trade? Would you hate a trade? Would you like to get these guys? Would you not? Gary Harris, Mo Bamba, Gary Harris, or Terrence Ross and Mo Bamba. Would you like to get all three? Whatever your thoughts are, however you feel, I would love to hear it. Let me know down in the comment section below.